Hello, this is Douglas DeBecker, and I am sharing another day of some things that we can all learn better. Uh, so, this is a very short, I do very short clips here every day, and I'm just trying to share some of the stuff I know. If you need some help, you can feel free to call me. I do free 15-minute consultations. I'm sure I can help you with something. And maybe you'd like to get you know further help with me after talking to me for 15 minutes, but I can definitely give you some advice that will help with what you're doing. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about compensation, because I talked about that yesterday in the first recording. um, so our bodies always are always compensating, and that means that it's trying to keep, for instance, the blood in the uh, right parameters so that we stay alive, so we have the right amount of oxygen and everything. So within the blood, in the blood cells, there is potassium, and that potassium stays inside the cell usually. However, if we end up becoming very dominant in essential fatty acids from oils, such as from seeds or nuts, any oils that are liquid at room temperature, what will start to happen is that the potassium will leak out of the cell and become what's called extracellular, instead of intracellular. That extracellular potassium increases the pH of the blood, and the blood then has a harder time delivering oxygen. There's a thing called the Bohr effect, and the potassium will make the blood more alkaline. And at a certain point of alkalinity, the blood starts holding on to the oxygen and not delivering it into the tissues. So that's one example of what happens. Another example is, for instance, if you aren't metabolizing your carbohydrates and your blood sugar is starting to build up, then you're going to actually be breathing slower, because the breath rate is actually uh, orchestrated by the need for the body to get rid of acid in the blood. And when the carbohydrates aren't being metabolized, you're not actually your breath will slow down so that you can maintain the pH of your blood, and keep it from becoming too alkaline. So, in traditional medicine, in indigenous medicine, uh, these oils that decide of whether or not things can go in and out easily, or whether or not the things are kept inside of the cell membrane. These were all identified early on, thousands of years ago, and used appropriately. So, what I want to share with you is, how can you tell if you are, say, more on or off, or say more hot or cold? In the traditional Tibetan medicine, the first tree that we use to memorize different subjects, the last branch on the last tree is actually a branch of hot and cold. Okay. And so, how do you tell if you're hot or cold? How do you tell if your body's that way? Because if you can identify if your body's hot or cold as a dominant systemic um, situation, then you'll be able to do things that will immediately start to support your body's um, momentum towards bringing more balance. Okay. Um, any imbalance that we have, whatever's going on, can be really assisted with this. And the way to tell if you're hot or if you're always on, that's another way of looking at hot. Like, you're always on, you don't turn off, you're driven, you go, 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 go. Okay. This is known as like being hot or on. And part of the symptoms with this are going to be um, having looser stools like diarrhea, having a hard time sleeping, and a warmer body temperature. In general, these things all indicate that you're too much on fire, what we would call in physiology that you have a lot of oxidation dominance in your system. In that case, the things that would help would be like antioxidants would help really well, as well as, for instance, helping to get your bile to flow, because often your bile, when you're dominant catabolic or dominant dysaerobic, too much oxidation, when you're too hot, pitta, or in Tibetan medicine we say trippa, the bile's not going to flow. Trippa and pitta, if you're familiar with those terms, they actually literally mean bile, and the bile will become not alkaline enough, and it will not flow very well. Okay, and this allows the acid to come out of the stomach into the small intestine without it being neutralized by the alkaline bile. Okay, that causes a faster stool to pass through the intestines. You don't get your minerals and nutrients as well. And if you increase the bile flow, that can actually slow it down. Okay, and so you'll actually get more nutrients and you won't have looser stools. A lot of the loose stool also comes probably because the water is being pumped into the large intestine in order to put off the burning that the acid would be having on the tissue. Okay, so that's how you tell if you're on. How, the primary foundational way of dealing with the onness or the hotness is by using solid fats like coconut oil, butter. Ghee is also helpful, although butter is much cooler than ghee. And increasing those solid fats will actually help all of the things that I just mentioned in relationship to being hot. It'll help your body to push everything into the right direction. Okay. Now, how do you tell if you're cold? So if you're cold, you're going to be more off. You're not going to have much energy. You're not going to feel really driven to go do much. You're not going to be able to change really easily. And so when you wake up in the morning, you're going to be kind of still like half awake most of the day. Um, and so how do you change that? You change that through using oils that are liquid at room temperature, like the kind you get from seeds and nuts. So, like olive oil, for instance, having some olive oil in the morning. A lot of times when you are off, you will have more harder stools, more constipation even. The feces isn't actually moving through the intestines too well because the acid is really weak from the stomach. And so increasing the acid as well in your stomach can help too. In physiology and biotrain assessment, we use vinegar to help with that. You can have some vinegar and water. Um, but this will help to increase the thing. Nutraceuticals that are used a lot are like hydrochloric acid, but I don't really encourage that too much. You need to make sure the bile is flowing, and really vinegar can help. Also, olive oil in the morning can really help, and the oil itself, these liquid oils, you can also eat seeds and nuts if your digestion is kind of strong, and that will actually help to turn you on. And so in the morning time, if you do that, it'll help to actually turn you on, and then you'll be on. One of the other ways of knowing that you're too on is if you can't go to sleep at night. Yeah, you can't go to sleep. You have looser stools. That means you're too on. Okay, if you're too off, you sleep really well, and you can't really wake up. Okay, so if understanding if you're off or on is the same kind of as understanding if you have too much heat or too much coldness. Okay, and the way to restore heat if you're cold is to take oils that are liquid at room temperature, and the way to restore um, coldness if you're too hot is to take fats that are solid at room temperature. This is like cholesterol and saturated fat containing fats like coconut oil, ghee, butter, things like this. All right. If there are no questions, I'm looking to see if anyone's actually watching. I can't really tell. I'm not sure if I'm doing this correctly, but I think I am. So that's the main thing I wanted to share today, is understanding that figuring out if you have a hot imbalance or a cold imbalance is huge. Okay. The nutrients that you would take, like people take a lot of supplements. A lot of times when they're too hot, they're taking supplements actually that make them even hotter. So things that make you hotter, that turn you on more, like vitamin D, sulfur-based drugs, and sulfur-based supplements, um, calcium and magnesium. They also turn you on. Yeah, unlike conventional idea where if you take calcium, magnesium, actually it will only serve the function of turning you off for so long, and then it will stop working because what you really need is that solid fat. So people get really excited about magnesium, but if you're too driven and you can't stop, magnesium is the wrong thing, and it will keep you from sleeping at night. And actually really make your diarrhea worse and your hot temperature worse. Um, Another thing that turns you on is any kind of essential fatty acids, any kind of seeds or nuts. Chia seeds and flax seeds are different. If you actually have the full seed, you can soak them in water and make some food out of it. That's different. It won't have the same heating effect as flaxseed oil or chia seed oil. Um, what else? B vitamins like B12, B6, B complex. Those things turn you on and make it hard for you to sleep. It makes your stools looser, increases your body temperature, makes you feel driven. Okay. The things that help you turn off or that help you cool down are like zinc, antioxidants, things like that. Folic acid is also helpful, which is, it's a B vitamin, but it's actually really really helpful to turn you off instead of on. Um, what else? Iron can help. Actually, blackstrap molasses is really helpful, and it's also helpful in the indigenous systems. We use it for balancing or calming down the wind if it's too strong as well, and that has a lot to do with the nutrients that are in it. Um, so I'll leave you with that. Of course, we'll go through more ways in how to strengthen your digestion and make sure you're actually getting the nutrients out of your food. But first, the easiest thing you can do with any situation, you can be 100% sure you can help somebody, is if you figure out if they're hot or cold. Okay, there is a stress component as well. Sometimes the nervous system is overriding everything, and I'm going to cover that as well. But in general, if you can tell that a person's too hot, you can tell them what nutrients they shouldn't be using, what nutrients they can use if they're into supplements, and also definitely you can give them certain fats that are easy to find in the kitchen, butter or coconut oil or ghee, to help them if they're too fiery, too hot, too angry, and if they need to be warmed up, they can use olive oil in the morning, and that'll be really helpful as well. They can use olive oil throughout the day until they're really on. And then once you've balanced that out, you'll notice that if you're really hot, you're sleeping really well, your digestion is usually better, or elimination is better. If you had looser stools, they're not as loose, and you are sleeping better. That's a great. If you have a hard time getting up in the morning and you used to just jump up and be a really light sleeper, then you can start incorporating olive oil again in the morning to help you turn on in the day, and find a happy balance until your body starts to get into a balanced state where it's on in the day and off at night. If you're too on all or too off all the time, too cold, and you're taking olive oil and using seeds and nuts to help you move, and help you turn on, when you start not falling asleep and not having as much of a deep sleep, then you can back off on that so that you can still be off at night but still be able to turn on in the day. Okay, I hope this is helpful. It's super basic. It's been used for thousands of years, these ideas. And if you have any questions, feel free to send it to me. Okay, thanks. Have a great day.